So in the previous video, we have successfully containerized this website and served with the Nginx. But right now, whenever we are, if I close this one, so it's going to be down my side. Okay. So whenever we are type this command like the docker run and -p, so if I run this command, so what will happen in the background? So it automatically create a container and run for us. Okay. But what happened? You are running this image the multiple time. Okay. So I have to show one example here. So I'm going to just clear here and again open a new terminal, and right now we are going to check the docker container. So if you want to check so how many docker container is running, so you can use the docker ps command. Okay, so if you are using the docker ps command, so using the docker ps command we can list down all the running container. So let's first run this docker container here. So it's going to be run sooner. Okay, the application is started, and let's open the another terminal, and again we are using the docker ps command. So as you can see that using the docker ps command we can able to see the which is the docker container is running. So this is the docker container id, and this is the name, so Rohit Marathi /NFT website, and it's created 9 seconds ago and up for the 8 seconds, and this is the port. Okay, all the things is mentioned here. So right now what I am going to do, I am going to close this application. Okay, and one thing you have to be remember, this is the container id. So this is the container id start from the 68a. Okay, and if I close this one and if I again check the docker ps, so as you can see that no container is running right now. And if I run the same command, okay, like the same command, the docker run -p, and if I run again the docker ps, and this time you can see that we have the different container id. Okay, and this time this created the 3 second ago and currently up for the 3 second, which means if you run the docker run command every single time, so it's every single time it's going to be run a new docker container for you. Okay, so if I again close this one, okay, and you have to again note this id here, it start from the 538. Okay, and if I clear this one and let me refresh this one and just whatever docker run -p85:80. Not, we are not using the colon, we are using the port 8080 and 80 here. So I am just again running the same image, NFT website, but not the dot. Okay, the application is started, and if I again check the docker ps, and this time again as you can see that we get the another container id. So which means, so every time you run the docker run command, so it will be create a new container for you. So if you want to list down all the docker containers that we have previously run or we have launched, so for that we are using the docker ps, and once again we have to notice I am using the --all, so it's going to list down all the docker container. Okay, so if I press simply enter, as you can see that I got this huge list here. So a couple of minutes earlier, so we are running this id of docker container like the 68a. Later on we are using the 538. So right now our application is running on this container id, and this is the created the 1 minute ago, and status is up from 1 minute. Okay, and let's suppose again if I close this one and again I use the docker ps command, and right now as you can see that the docker container, this is currently down, and we can see that we have created a 3 minutes ago and status is exited 4 seconds ago. Okay, and let's suppose again if I run this docker container command, and if I refresh this again, so first thing, clear all the things clutter here, and docker ps -all. Okay, so as you can see that again a new container is running here. And one thing I have to show, so if I close this one, so as you can see that we have the bunch of images here. If I show you all the images, so here we have the bunch of containers and with their images. So this is the images that are using these containers. Okay, so this is the container ID, and this images is using this Docker container. Okay, so let's suppose if you want to run a specific Docker container, so how we can do that? So as you can know that we have this all the images that is the same, and the Docker container is different. So if I take this image 13.1, so if I copy the container ID, so you have to just copy the container ID here, and again I'm just going to open this tab, this terminal, and I'm using the Docker start command. So one thing you have to remember, our application is not in the running mode. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to open this one, and I'm using the Docker start command, and you have to just simply copy the container ID, okay, and paste here. So you have to use the Docker start, and then you have to just start the Docker container. Okay, so I just copy this command, this container ID, and paste here. And if you press enter, okay, so it's going to take a second, and it's going to return the same container ID. So you might be thinking what's happened in the background. So if you go again in the Docker, okay, in the second terminal, and if we use again the Docker ps command, so at that time, as you can see that our Docker container is in the running mode. And if I refresh this page, so our website is again in the serve mode, or not the serve mode, but in the running mode. So what we have done, we are just copy the container ID, and using the container ID we can able to start the Docker container. Okay, and as you can see that our Docker container is in the running state, and this is the Docker container ID, this is the image, and everything is up, and all the things is working fine here, as you can see that. And let's suppose if I use the Docker stop command, okay, so again I'm using the Docker stop command. So if I copy this container ID and paste it here, and if I refresh this one, so it's going to stop the application because I use the Docker stop command. So again, if I use the Docker start command, and I'm just copy this Docker container and paste here Docker container ID, and again our application is started. So I hope you understand. So whenever you are using the Docker run command, so it's automatically create a new container for you, or either you can just able to use the old container. So in our case, what we have done, we are using the Docker ps command. So we are going to list all the running containers, and using the Docker ps dash all, we are list all the Docker containers, and we take the ID of Docker container, and using that we are able to start the Docker container, as well as we are able to stop the Docker container as well. And in the next lecture, what we are going to do, we are going to go inside in the Docker container.